This is the first time I'm seeing this video as well. My name is Tunde Onakoya. I have done many things, especially in the last 10 years. And I'm known for a lot of things. But very recently, I broke the world record for the longest chess marathon. Without losing a single game, by the way. But above all things, I'm a dreamer, and I don't have a presentation because I want to tell you a story, and I want to tell you a story of becoming. This is important to me because Nigeria is always home for me. I've been on the road for the last 2-3 months, 9 countries, and I miss home terribly. I want to go back home because I have in some way become a prisoner of my own purpose, and I don't think I'll ever be happy anywhere else because I believe very strongly in our story of becoming. And that story started 6 years ago. A lot of the other amazing speakers have shown us a lot of numbers, and data is such an interesting thing because in some way it helps us see the broader picture, and in some other ways it helps us see preconceived bias. And that is the story of Nigeria. It's a story of becoming. And for the longest time, Nigeria has always been known for the single story, right? When I tell people I'm from Nigeria, they see this immediate apprehension, sort of, because there's a single story about Nigeria that has been propagated for the longest time. The jokes about the Nigerian prince, the single story. And we all know the danger of the single story. The danger of the single story isn't that it isn't true, but that it is incomplete. So today, I'm not going to tell you our problems all over again. I'm not going to, talk about data again, because the previous speakers have done an amazing job showing us what the numbers look like. But I'm going to tell you our story of becoming. There's a way poverty is being described, in Nigeria and Africa at large. And they tell you that more than half of the population in Nigeria lives below the $2 line. And 95% of Nigerians, only 5% actually can spend over $50 daily. So there are 95% of the entire population, so more than 200 million people, do not have that resource, do not have disposable income. And a lot of what has been happening in recent times, in the tech ecosystem, the opportunities that are being provided, sadly, only go towards the middle class, the 5% that have disposable income. So maybe we're thinking about it wrongly because investing in Nigeria has to be really long and concerted efforts. And we have to think about it in a way that isn't just trying to make a quick buck and just exit. We have to think about it by setting up infrastructure that can stand the test of time and that can serve the people that are non-consumers. So how do we create market opportunities? And I say create market opportunities by taking the non-consumers and making them consumers, because that is where the real opportunity lies. Nigeria has 200 million people, but guess what? 20 million young people, children, cannot be in school right now. There are 20 million out-of-school children in Nigeria. Nigeria accounts for 1 out of every 5 out-of-school child in the entire world. That is a crisis. And the world is changing. Technology is in the world. And we see all these things in the next 50 years. So, Nigeria will have the youngest population. Nigeria is indeed the future workforce of the world. True. But if you have 20 million children right now that cannot be in school, they cannot participate in that future, they will become a liability to that future. They will not be the workforce of that future. And that is indeed where the opportunity lies, to invest in our greatest resource, which is our human capital. Again, this journey started 6 years ago for me. But before then, I grew up in a small place in Nigeria called Ikorodu. It's a slum community in Ikorodu, very small community. We didn't have access to a lot of things. My parents were not educated, so they didn't really understand the value of education. And at the age of 10, I had to drop out of school. There was no money to continue to pay tuition. And in that time, I got the opportunity to learn chess. And chess changed my life in very profound ways. There's a lot of empirical research that tracks how chess improves learning outcomes, critical thinking, creativity, the science of it. The real impact of chess for the mind of a young person is in the synapses, is in the frameworks it helps that young person develop to learn how to think, how to become thinkers. But what chess did for me was so much more than that. It gave me my first real identity. And I think that is the real tragedy of poverty, that a lot of these children are born into a situation, after missing that luxury of birth, they're born into a situation where they're fully conditioned by the poverty of their parents before they have their own agency. I think that is a real tragedy, because this is how the cycle of poverty has been propagated over time. And I was a child like that, but I learned how to play chess, and that changed my entire trajectory. Because for the first time, I found something that I could influence the outcomes, that my direct efforts could point towards the result. So if I play well, I'll win. If I play badly, I'll lose. And it changed the mind of this young 10-year-old kid that couldn't speak English, that had very little education and exposure. And it gave me a way to find my place in the world. And I went on to college on a scholarship, studied computer science. Chess gave me a lot of opportunities. And 6 years ago, I decided I was going to do the same thing for other children like me. And the idea was very simple, and I had complete faith in it. That there are all these children out of school, getting hung up on drugs, getting into internet scam, and all of these vices that we know and we understand, And somebody has to give them a beginning in education. And a lot of them are falling through the cracks of our conventional learning system. And I thought about what I could do. And I made a decision to use the only tool that I had, which is the ability to play chess and teach it and use it as an educational resource to help these children find their place in the world, just like I did. And it was hard at first, because how do you explain to a child that has never seen the walls of a classroom before that a room moves vertically and horizontally, and it was so complex. But I tell you that in just one day of teaching them, they were able to learn all the basic rules, the movement of all the pieces, the board coordinates, and everything else in just one day of teaching. And that helped me understand something that I think a lot of people have missed over time. These children had incredible potential, but potential is nothing if it's not realized. And they found a way to express that potential that was in it by learning something that was intellectually challenging, that a lot of even adults run from. And that was all I needed as proof of concepts that talent is universal, but opportunity isn't. And somebody has to stand in that gap of opportunity and talent. Started working with these young people, and in 6 years, a lot has happened. We've trained over 10,000 children across Africa. We've set up a lot of centers. A lot of them have gotten local and international scholarships. Chess has become not just the opportunity in itself, but a gateway to other opportunities: technology, education, mentorship, exposure. A lot of them have traveled, they've competed, they've won tournaments. A lot has happened in the 6 years, but it started with a simple idea that there are a lot of young people that have been excluded, and in creating opportunity for them, we can help them find their place in the world again. And I say this because this is the story of Nigeria, and it points back to our story of becoming. For a country that has become a victim of its own leadership. And it's a really sad one because Nigerians are some of the best people in the world. Sorry to all the other countries, but I really mean this. Again, the simple story, the internet scammers, the Nigerian prince. But then there's the story of Shola, who built Paystack that exited for $200 million. And I've given a lot of thought to what the future looks like. And Nigeria's place in that future, everything is happening so fast. Open your eyes, launching products every day. And in Nigeria, we're still looking at the gap in the market. And I really loved, the panel session that just ended. You have this idea you think can change the world, can include more people, and you rush into it. But like, wow, 200 million people. So when you rush into it, you now understand why there's a gap in that market, and why that gap and that void is still there, and nobody is addressing it. So maybe we need to change our thinking in addressing these problems. Because if we continue to serve the middle class, if we continue to serve the ones that can't even afford it, we're going to miss such a huge opportunity to include the 95%. But how do we really create and invest in this market creating innovations? We cannot use the same thinking, through, the VC vehicle, investing in startups. So we cannot use that same thinking to include the 95%. And that is the truth. We have to think about development and investment through long-term infrastructure. And it's not the one that has like a runway of 10 years, then everyone wants their money back. We need to really invest deeply in a lot of these people that have been excluded. That is where the real opportunity of Nigeria is. And it's so interesting because the world loves our raw materials in terms of mineral resource, but it rejects our finished product. Nigeria almost doesn't export anything, but the world takes our crude oil. But guess what? The world rejects our finished product because it's not good enough. Because we're not putting a lot of thought into adding value to our own raw materials. But in the same vein, in terms of human capital, the world rejects our raw material. If someone that is uneducated and trying to survive tries to get on a ship, come to Europe, they call them refugees. They're not needed here. But the world takes our finished product in terms of human capital. The educated ones come to our country, come and do your masters for free. Come and do this for free. Because they have the wrong understanding of what our true capacity is. It is not in the raw materials that we have. It is our people. And before we can begin to change anything, we have to invest in our people. And a lot of this reason is why I do what I do with the Chess and Stones project. Because I have seen that as an important gap. I could very well take the chess program and take it to private schools, to the elites, to the billionaires. It's such an elitist sport anyway. But I've decided to take it to the unlikely places. The places people don't pay attention to. The slums. Because the slum is just a place. It doesn't define the people that live there. And in the last 6 years, I've worked with so many young people. A lot of them have become really critical thinkers. And I think that one of the greatest pleasures of life is that you find talent that is undiscovered, that is unseen. You empower them with high conviction. And you just watch them bend the trajectory of things. That is the power that we have when we think about investment in our people. humans, because that is our greatest strength. So in this forum, as we continue to dialogue and think about what is viable, what is important, right? Nigeria will be the future workforce of the world. It is destined to be, it will be, but we need to make sure people are at the forefront of that. And every of our thinking, right, must be centered in a way that includes the ones that do not even understand the vast opportunities that exist on the internet. On a final note, I'm doing two things right now. The first one is we're building a chess academy. We want to be the biggest chess academy in the world. Somewhere that can become a convergence point, for chess and innovation. Because we want to raise a new generation of critical thinkers. And we believe we can give the gift of chess, the gift of critical thinking to 1 million children across some communities in Africa. Then we can build critical mass. 1 million children from the slums, from extreme poverty, who go on to become empowered, who go on to become the innovators of the future. They would have a sense of duty and commitment to the places where they come from. And we need those leaders to emerge from the communities that they must serve. And this is the vision for the Chess and Slums project. But chess is not the end in itself. It's a means to several ends. And the second thing I'm working on is to change the world's perception of Nigeria. The Nigerian prince jokes, the apprehension from thinking we're all scammers. Because where I come from, a lot of the young people got into drugs, internet scam. And I went back there 2 years ago. We started a project called the Smarting Project. And a lot of those young people, we began to recruit them and put them in a crucible, build an entire facility where they can begin to learn important skills for the future of work. But in tech, commerce, all of that has happened in 2 years. And one of them recently, got an opportunity and now works at Bloomberg in London. This happened in just 2 years. And again, it is possible to do great things from a small place. And I say this today because this is what I'm thinking to be focused on. That our greatest strength, the greatest opportunity for the Nigerian market is in its people, humans. And for the Finnish people, I'll say this finally. There's a fire. And the first thing we think about when we say fire is it close to me? Or it's just over there, so it doesn't concern me. There's a fire right now, right, that is raging. But the thing about fire is it spreads. So in one moment, it doesn't concern us. The next moment, it's spreading and it's coming closer. But the beauty of it is, for each and every one of us, we all have the capacity to put out a fire. In different capacities. For some of us, we have our buckets. For some of us, it's just a cup with water. For some of us, it's a spoon. For me, I have a spoon, but it's filled with water. And I can continue to use it to quench that fire. For some of us, it's just their hands. So I hope we all recognize what we have in our hands. And whether you're driving through investment at a very high level, or through being on the field, or through advocacy, we all have a role to play in writing Nigeria's story of becoming. Thank you very much.